Hey guys, Spirit of the Law here. For those keeping track, with the release of Definitive Edition, there are now 23 unique animals that can be generated on random maps. Some can be controlled, some lured, and some just want to eat you, but you can't eat them back. In this video, I want to look at the 4 main categories, and even within each category, see what these subtle differences are. Plenty of them are just reskins, but some have secret and not so secret differences between them, and that's mostly what I want to look at. The first main type is what I'll call the domesticated animals, or the herdables. Traditionally, the archetype is the sheep, but now you can see up to 8 different variations that all perform a similar role. To begin with, they're all the same in terms of gather rate. Assuming you have them directly under your town center to eliminate walking time, villagers gather roughly 18 to 19.5 food per minute each, depending on how quickly they can switch to the next one. That means if you have 6 villagers gathering at once, you can collect at about the rate you need to keep villagers constantly queued up at your town center. That's why one of the big rules of Age of Empires you learn early on is to put your first 6 villagers on sheep. Now there are a couple of exceptions to this. For example, Britons collect faster from sheep and other herdables, so they can get away with just 5 if they want. On the other hand, it's not uncommon to see Chinese players go for 7 on sheep for a while because they start with no food. And even in an ideal situation, you're actually slightly short on sustaining villagers when you have just 6. Normally, civilizations start with 200 food, which gives enough of a buffer at first that practically speaking, 6 villagers is usually all you need. Now, while the collection rate is the same across all 8 animals, the actual food total is not. Notice the cow and water buffalo actually have 150 instead of 100 food. To offset this, cows usually spawn in groups of 3 instead of the usual 4. At first, it might look like a bug because you're getting fewer animals around your town center, but rest assured, in reality, you're actually getting slightly more food overall. Now, interestingly, the water buffalo doesn't spawn in groups of 3. You get the regular amount, meaning it's just a straight up increase in total food. Assuming all of your herdable animals generate as water buffalo, you get 50% more food overall, which is much better than the 12.5% boost from getting all cows. Of course, all of these values are roughly 50% more for Tatars thanks to a civ bonus, so they're extra happy when they start with water buffalo. Now, besides the variation in their food total, you might not have realized, but all animals are not equal when it comes to scouting ability as well. One of the more advanced tricks with herdable animals is you can use them to explore the area around your town center at the start of the game. If you hold down shift while you right click, you can lay out specific routes for them to take, and in practice it involves a lot less micromanagement than you might think. You can see here that while the cow, sheep, and turkey all have a 2-tile line of sight, the rest all have 3 tiles. Including the one they're standing on, that means 21 and 37 tiles of sight respectively, or nearly double the area. When it comes to the scouting rate, that means you're getting 210 tiles per minute of scouting from sheep and turkeys, compared to 294 from all other animals except cows, which are a bit slower and end up being the worst scouters with 195 tiles per minute. Combined with the fact they spawn in groups of 3, meaning right away you have 1 fewer unit to scout with, cows might actually be all around the worst herdable animal to begin with. Luckily, each player starts with the same animals available, so it's at least something both players have to work with. On the other hand, the best herdable animal is actually the water buffalo, which has the ideal combination of great scouting while also giving the most food. Moving on, the second big category is the set of animals based on the deer, which includes the ostrich, zebra, and ibex. Their behavior is all the same, and basically they spawn in usually small groups of 3 or 4 and run away from any units they encounter. All of them have 140 food and take 2 shots from a hunter to bring down. On paper, their food rate is a little higher than the herdables at 24 to 24.5 food per minute, which is to offset the fact it's quite a bit harder to get them directly under your town center than sheep, for instance. Normally, you have to take quite a bit of time using your scout to corral them towards your villagers, or send your villagers to walk out to get them in combination with the mill, which in practice can bring their collection rate down to 18 or lower depending on the distance. For Mongols, that rate is about 50% faster thanks to a civ bonus, though obviously that has a smaller effect if the villagers are walking a long way for the deer. In terms of how many you get, on most maps it's hard-coded to be a 50-50 chance of whether they come in a set of 3 or 4. Of course, some maps like Prairie and Valley are a bit special, and you can expect a whole lot more on those maps. It's kind of their thing. Beyond that, this group is really all just reskins of the deer. Depending on the type of map, you just tend to get whichever is the most geographically appropriate. For example, in the desert, you get zebra or ostrich, and if it's lush and green, you'll probably get deer, while if it's snowy, you'll probably get ibex. Though, just like in nature, for every rule, there's always an exception. The last type of animal that gives food is the set based on the boar, or what you might call the luring animals. There are 3 types, or 4 if you include the javelina, which is just a renamed boar, and all of them have the same collection rate as deer. The difference is that they have much more food, though you can see it varies a bit between them, as well as the fact that they'll attack your units when provoked. Of course, you can use that to your advantage and lure them back to your town center instead of sending all of your villagers out to get them. That all means on African-themed maps, you have 120 more food available to you from the rhino and elephant, though it comes with a bit of added danger. Those units attack slightly faster than boar, making them much more likely to pick off one of your villagers as it's walking back or under your town center. They're still straightforward to lure, but keep an eye on when you garrison villagers, and I'd recommend Loom for the long lures if you have any doubts. This is one case where the Goth's hunting bonus suddenly starts to look pretty good. The fourth and final category of animals is the predators. Here I mean the wolves and all of their variations depending on the type of map. All of their stats are actually identical to a villager without Loom, meaning whoever gets the first shot is going to win, which is hard to do consistently. You can also see their line of sight is an incredible 12 tiles. The actual range they'll attack you from depends on the difficulty setting though. As I've looked at before, it varies from 4 tiles on easiest to 6 tiles on standard, and then 12 tiles on any higher difficulties. That means which difficulty setting you pick on a Black Forest does potentially impact the gameplay, even if there are no AIs involved. But those are the edible and predatory animals in Definitive Edition. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.